So for a little while now, we have been thinking about replacing their countertops, but instead of actually just replacing the whole countertops, we're going to use a product called Stone Effects. It's a 3-step. You put a primer on, you put the actual color. In our case, it's going to be a bluish black and it's called Gray Lakes. And then on top of that, you put a clear coat, a epoxy clear coat, and that'll help it for if you spill anything on it, it's just easy to wipe off. So we're going to do our little microwave area, which is about 3.5–4 feet long. Our stove is in this island, and we're going to be doing that. And we're going to do the main counter where the sink is. When we do all this, we're going to have to fix a few spots. Like here's a bad crack where somebody had one time glued a piece on. We're going to remove this whiteboard here because we're going to put a backsplash on later. On where the stove is, this spot here, at one time something got really hot and made it bubble it up. And then on the end of the counter, there's a spot here where somebody a piece that came off and somebody had glued back on. So our first step, once we get this going, I'll remove these bubbles and we'll patch them up. And then when I get that done, I have to sand everything and then the primer. So for now, let's start by fixing these bad spots. So sit back and enjoy the video. So I finished sanding the counter. I used an 80 grit sandpaper of my sander. I washed this counter down with water and soap, and now we've just washed the counter space with a TSP, which is a very heavy all-purpose duty cleaner and degreaser. So we've done that over all the counters. Here's one of the patches that I did next to the stove. So now that is nice and smooth, and then here's where the microwave sits. So we've got everything fixed, we've wiped it down, we've washed it down, degreased everything, and now we're going to let it dry, and then what we're going to do is we'll get our green tape and masking tape, that kind of thing, and we're going to tape off the sink and tape off the stove. And then then we'll do primer. So once everything is taped off, I'll come back and we'll show you quickly a little bit of the primer going on. So we're putting the primer on. Everything has been taped off. There's green tape around the stove. And this primer that we're putting on, it feels a little gritty. So if we have enough, we will put 2 coats of primer on. And obviously we're going to do the top, we'll do the sides, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm using the brush. I'll get out nice and close to where the stove and sink and so on is. And then obviously we're rolling it too. So, okay, when this is all done, we're going to put the 2 coats on, and I'll show you when it's dry. It is now day 2, and because we had extra primer, we decided to put a 2nd coat on everything. So everything now has 2 coats of primer on it. So directions only show that you need 1 coat, but I think we'll be fine. So right now we're putting the color on. We're using a couple trowels, a big trowel to do the tops, and then a little 2 or 3 inch one across to do the backsplash type area. So we'll put it down thin. It says 1/16 of an inch, and basically you just very lightly move the color across the top. So hopefully we have enough. It's going there slowly, but I think it'll look good when it's done. So this is sort of the color that it's going to be. And when this is done, we'll let it dry for a full day, and then we'll do clear coat. So after about 3 hours, we've got all the colored part on the counter. And I'm just showing you the 3 things. That's where the sink is, of course. This is where the stove is. And this is our little microwave spot. So a lot of work, a lot slower than I thought. A suggestion I would make is, if you think one can will do it, or just barely do it, you should buy yourself a second can, or at least a half of another can. It says you could go anywhere from a 1/16 of an inch to an 1/8 of an inch, and personally I think I would do the 1/8 of an inch. It also says 1 or 2 coats, and I think if you got the money, I would definitely do the 2 coats, because wherever we did it nice and thick, none of the primer shows through, but anywhere that it's really thin, the primer shows through. So that would be my suggestion, 2 coats probably. So anyway, we're going to let this dry for 24 hours. In other words, tomorrow or the next day we'll put on the protective clear coat that we got from Stone Effects 2. So when we're ready for that, I'll show you. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're putting on the clear coat. The one bucket that we have will just basically cover the counter. It will not do the stove and the microwave. As per the directions, you pour it on the counter, and then you do the fronts of the counter, and you do the backsplash of the counter. And then when that is done, you use your brush and you just spread it out over the rest of the counter. So when it's all done, it should become a nice shiny clear hard top, or a clear hard top. Okay, so anyway, when this is done, we'll show you what it looks like. So we just finished putting the clear coat on our counters. It's still very wet. We used brushes. It's on the back. You can see how it's so far very, very shiny. After it was done, we took the heat gun and gave it a little bit of heat to help smooth it down a little bit. It says it takes 3 days to fully cure, so we won't touch it for obviously a while. I might tonight again use the heat gun, because if there's any wavy spots or whatever, that heat gun should drop those down. I don't see no bubbles. The packaging said that would work with 32 square feet. I think our counters are probably a total of maybe 35, so we end up using 2 of those boxes that I just showed you, and anything extra we put on the main part of the counter on both sides. So now it takes, like I said, 24 hours to sort of dry, and then 72 hours to be fully dry. So I'll come back in 3 full days and I'll show you the results and maybe a few tips. Thank you. So the counters are now dry. You can touch them, they're nice and smooth. So we're very happy with them. They turn out good. We'll still be doing some backsplash back there. That'll be another video later. There's both sides of the sink. Here's the island where the stove is, and again, nice and smooth and flat. And then that's where we put the microwave, and we'll probably do maybe backsplash back there too. So it turned out good. Suggestions would be, make sure you have more than enough of the colored stuff. We end up using 2 packages of the clear coat, so again, make sure you have more than enough. You don't want to do like we did, have to run into town and buy another package. Put it on smooth. Make sure you do a really good job getting it level. Take your time. Give it the 2 or 3 days that it needs to cure in between each level. And it's lots of work, but you know, compared to what we had originally with bad spots, chips under the counter, this looks much, much better. So we're very happy. So thanks for watching the video. Don't forget us like, subscribe, and the big thumbs up. Bye now.